Chen Reiss, you're now singing in some of the world's greatest opera houses. Can you remember your first major role? And how did you feel on the opening night? And how did you deal with nerves that you must have had on that occasion?
Oh yes, I definitely remember. It was Gretel, in Hansel und Gretel, in Opéra de Quebec in Canada. And I was very young. I just graduated from university. And probably it was too early for me to sing such a long and demanding role. As a matter of fact, I'm going to sing it in 2 months at the Vienna State Opera, many years after. I wasn't nervous, actually. Funnily enough, I think I started to get nervous later in my career. But I was very excited because I really wanted to go on stage and to perform in front of people. And I wanted everybody to hear me. So I'm sure I was maybe a little bit nervous, but it was more excitement, enthusiasm. And it was a lovely production. There was a lovely stage director, lovely conductor, lovely colleagues. Everything was wonderful. So I have a very good memory of that production.
And preparing for that role must have taken a lot of time, particularly as it was your first big role.
Yes.
How do you prepare for a role, and how has that changed from those early days to preparing now? What have you learnt along that road?
Well, I always begin with a text. When I was younger, I often just sat at the piano and started with the music. But now I find it's much quicker to memorize. If I start with a text, with the words, I really read it and repeat it many, many times. I also speak German now, which I did not speak back then. So it makes much more sense to me now. And talking about Gretel, but also Italian operas, I speak now Italian. So in a way, it's much faster. And it is more challenging when I sing an opera in a language that I don't speak. For example, 2 years ago, I had to sing the leading part in The Cunning Little Vixen in Czech. I don't speak a word of Czech. And I definitely had to start with a text, and it took a long, long time. And then either I play at the piano myself and I learn the part, or if it's a difficult score to play, like a Strauss opera or a Janacek, then I go to a vocal coach. He plays it for me, and that's how I actually learn the music, put the text and the music together, and then I start to work on it technically. Once it is in the voice technically and I know what I'm doing, then I get into the drama. And a lot happens also during the rehearsal period. In opera, we are lucky to have 4 to 6 weeks of rehearsals. And one really needs it when you sing a role for the first time, because you need to discover with the stage director what it means for you to really get it in the body, not just in the voice, but in the body. And some roles are very demanding physically, like The Cunning Little Vixen. I was a vixen. I actually had to be on all 4 for the entire show, which was really very, very challenging for my knees, for my back. And I had to move a lot, but still keep the breath low and be able to sing well while doing acrobatics with the body.
Well, I was going to ask you how, once you've studied the text and you've studied the music and you've been to the voice coach if it's in a language that you don't speak, inhabiting the skin of the character you're singing, do you refer to other recordings, or do you have a very clear mind as to how you're going to approach that character? You asked all the singers today at the Masterclass, so who are you? What are you singing about? You know, why are you upset, happy, whatever? So how do you sometimes think, I really get this person, or this person doesn't do anything for me, or?
Yes, I have to admit that sometimes at the beginning, when you start learning a role, you don't, you look at a character and you think, oh, I have nothing in common with her. but you read the story and you try to get into her skin. You try to imagine yourself in her situation. Now, many of those characters that I sing, they are in really extreme situations, which I never experienced in my life, and I don't want to experience in my life. Nevertheless, you can, there is enough misery and enough terrible things going on in the world, so you can imagine how it would feel if someone killed your father and brothers in front of your eyes, or if you were raped, or if you are dying, or so sometimes if you don't actually, current events definitely influence you, and reading about the history. And a lot of times it's, if you have a wonderful stage director, which I was fortunate in my life to have, worked with some fabulous stage directors, they really help you because they challenge you, they ask you questions, and they describe to you situations which maybe you didn't think about before. So this is why I say the rehearsal period is very important in trying different things. And sometimes you get to opening night and you still didn't get it. Yes, that's very sad if it happens, but sometimes it happens. Only when you do a certain role, only after the third or fourth production, you say, okay, now I really own the character, not just vocally, but also in all my body, in all my soul and my heart. I feel that when I go on stage, I am this person. It takes time, and this is why it's important to not to study the roles fast, but to really leave enough time for yourself to do it.
I'll come back to producers and productions in a minute, but if we talk about Mozart that we've heard this afternoon, I think it was Arthur Schnabel who said, that the pianist, who said that Mozart's easy for children to play, but very difficult for grown-ups. So how technically difficult is Mozart's music? You said it sounds simple music, but it's anything but simple, really, isn't it?
I think it's simple, and it should be sung in a simple way, but it's not easy. To get to it is very difficult. Not only the arias, even a song by Mozart, which you look at it and you think, oh, that's nothing. You start and it's so difficult. The intonation, I find, in Mozart has to be impeccable, because very often you have absolutely nothing under you. An aria like Pamina's aria is just plum, plum, plum. The orchestra is not supporting you in any way, and you're very, very exposed, and you have to sing a very clean line, very instrumental. Sometimes very often he has like the oboe playing with you, so you know, if you are not 100% there, everybody knows, everybody in the audience, every amateur will hear that you're out of tune. But if you sing Strauss and it's not 100% there, maybe only the conductor would know, but nobody else might, from the audience, only someone who really knows the score might know, she wasn't completely with the orchestra, or
all the noise.
But with, yes, because the orchestra is so much larger, and the style is different. But Mozart has to be sung in a very precise way, but it must never sound like an exercise. It has to be full of emotion, very moving, and I think this is the challenging part, because his characters are so interesting, and the words have so much meaning and hidden meanings. And this is, for me, the most fascinating thing about Mozart. As a singer, I love the librettos that he chose, and he was very picky and very particular, unlike other composers of his time, who were very good composers, Salieri, Cimarosa, Haydn, but I think their librettos are simply not as good.
Lorenzo da Ponte
yes, was a genius. Yes. Yeah. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why his operas are played over and over again. And I can hear Notte di Figaro 200 times, and I will never be bored. Of course, the music is heavenly, but it's not just the music, it's also the text. And every time you hear it, you discover a new joke, or it means something else to you as a woman because you are in a different stage in your life. So when I heard Notte di Figaro when I was 10 years old, I didn't quite understand as much as I understand today.
It's a very political,
of course,
dangerous subject.
it's a very, very political. He's talking about, of course, the tension between the different classes, but also the debate that Susanna or the Contessa has as a woman. And the female characters in Mozart, they are multifaceted. They really, there is love, there is care, there is revenge, there is hate, there is jealousy, and motherhood, sisterhood. So in different stages in your life, I think you understand it and you feel it differently.
It's fair to say that most young singers starting out in the world of opera will have performed in a Mozart opera, several Mozart operas. Are there, or is there repertoire or composers that you would avoid for fear of damaging your voice? Can you damage your voice if you decide to leap from, say, Mozart into Wagner or Strauss? And what advice would you give young singers in choosing
I think Mozart is very good to start with, because if your technique is incomplete yet, you will be exposed in Mozart, because the vibrato will not be even, or the intonation will go off, or the placement will go off. So in Mozart it's very easy to detect the problems and also to fix them. And yes, I was offered roles which were, it can be also a Mozart role, by the way, which is not my Fach. Yeah, it can be if I suddenly, someone offered me recently to sing Fiordiligi. Had I sung it, I think I would have damaged my voice. So it's not, it has nothing to do with Mozart or Strauss or Wagner. It's also Wagner wrote roles which my voice can sing. It depends on the Fach. Are you singing a role which is too dramatic for your voice, for example, or also too light for your voice? This can also happen.
As well as too
yes,
heavy.
yes, it can be too heavy or too light. If you sing a role which is too light, it could be that you then don't use the support also in the right way in order to be able to sing it, or you sing a role which is too high for you, or a role which is too low for you. So you need to be very particular and choose the things that present your voice in the best way.
Going back to productions and directors, you must have seen productions that you love, but you must also have taken part in some that, let's just say, you're less keen on. How do you deal with that? How do you manage to blot out something that you think, oh, that looks so awful, but I'm going to go out there and give it my best? Is that a challenge that?
Yes, it's very challenging, and I have been in situations in my life where I said, I don't want to sing opera anymore, I just want to sing concerts. Yes,
so
it's been that bad. It's been that bad. You have to swallow it, and they're not going to change a stage director or a production, because it's the opening night is in 4 weeks and the set has been done already, the clothes are done already. It's impossible to change. So you have to make the best out of it. You have to work also under circumstances which are not pleasant, and it's not easy. You can try to talk to the stage director and to convince him, and most stage directors are flexible and they are listening to the singer. And if you say, you know, this position is really uncomfortable for me, or this running on the stage just before my big aria really tires me, most of them will listen to you. But yes, sometimes I definitely had to take part in productions which were visually terrible, and it's very sad, because the audience very often blames the singers then, or they boo the production, but you, as a singer, you took part in it, it hurts you. You've given your best. You always go on stage, you always try your best, of course. You always give your best. Sometimes the circumstances are supportive and sometimes they're not. But c'est la vie.
Chen Reiss, thank you very much.
Thank you.